I'm Julia, 29F, and I've been married to Luke, 32M, for 3 years. We're expecting our first child, and I'm currently 7 months pregnant. I want to share my story and get some outside perspectives. I grew up in a small town called Millbrook with my mom, Sandra, and younger brother Jake. My dad, Tom, left when I was 5, and Jake was just a baby. I remember the day clearly. It was a sunny Tuesday morning. Dad packed a suitcase, kissed us goodbye, and drove away in his beat-up Ford pickup. We never saw him again. Mom was devastated. She had dropped out of high school when she got pregnant with me and had been taking night classes to get her GED and start nursing school. With Dad gone, she had to give up that dream to work full-time and support us. Money was always tight growing up. Mom worked as a waitress at the local diner during the day and cleaned offices at night. Jake and I learned to be independent early on. I started babysitting for neighbors at 12 and got my first real job at Wilson's Grocery when I was 16. Despite the financial struggles, Mom always made sure we had what we needed. She'd skip meals so we could eat, buy us school supplies before paying bills, and somehow always managed to get us small gifts for birthdays and Christmas. I remember one Christmas when I was 10. She worked extra shifts for weeks to buy me the bike I wanted. Her selflessness and work ethic shaped who I am today. I did well in school, joining the debate team and becoming editor of the school newspaper. I dreamed of going to college to study journalism, but when I graduated high school, the reality of our finances hit hard. Mom had been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and her medical bills were piling up. Jake was starting high school and needed braces. I couldn't bear the thought of taking on student loans and being a financial burden, so I decided to postpone college and work full-time instead. I got a job as a receptionist at Patterson Manufacturing, a local business that made car parts. Over the next few years, I worked my way up to office manager. It wasn't my dream career, but it allowed me to help support my family and save a little for the future. During this time, I dated a few guys from my hometown, but nothing serious. Most of them couldn't understand why I was so focused on work and helping my family instead of partying or planning for college like our peers. Luke came into my life when I was 24. We met at a friend's barbecue and hit it off immediately. He had just moved to Millbrook to open a branch office for his marketing firm. Luke was charming, successful, and came from a good family. It felt like a fairy tale after years of struggling. Luke grew up as an only child in Oak Ridge, an affluent suburb about an hour from Millbrook. His dad was a corporate lawyer, and his mom, Diane, was a high school English teacher. They gave Luke everything: private school, summer camps, European vacations. Luke's dad passed away from a heart attack when Luke was in his second year of college. After that, Diane never remarried and focused all her attention on Luke. When we first started dating, everything was perfect. Luke was attentive and romantic. He'd surprise me with flowers, take me on weekend trips to the city, and made me feel cherished. For the first time, I felt like I could relax and be taken care of instead of always being the responsible one. The first sign of trouble came when I met Diane. Luke took me to Oak Ridge for dinner at her house. She lived in a beautiful colonial-style home, meticulously decorated. Diane was polite but cold, scrutinizing everything I said and did. I chalked it up to nerves and tried harder to impress her. I brought a homemade apple pie, my grandmother's recipe, offered to help clean up, asked about her book club, but nothing seemed to thaw her icy demeanor. As we left that night, I overheard Diane telling Luke he could do better, and that I wasn't their kind of people. Luke brushed it off, saying his mom was just protective and would warm up eventually. I wanted to believe him, so I ignored the red flags. Over the next year, Luke and I grew closer. He was supportive of my family commitments, even offering to help Jake with college applications. When Luke proposed on a weekend trip to Niagara Falls, I was overjoyed. I thought I had finally found my happily ever after. After we got married, things were good for a while. We had our own place in Millbrook, and I rarely had to see Diane. Luke was doing well at work, and I was still at Patterson Manufacturing. We talked about starting a family and saving for a house. But about a year ago, everything changed. Luke came home one day and announced he was quitting his job to start a business with his college friend, Alex. They had this idea for a tech startup that would revolutionize online advertising. Luke was convinced it would make them millionaires. I was skeptical, but tried to be supportive. We had some savings, and I figured we could tighten our belts for a while until the business took off. But months went by, and they still hadn't launched anything. Our savings dwindled, and Luke started talking about taking out loans. It was around this time that I found out I was pregnant. It wasn't planned, but we were excited. However, the reality of our financial situation quickly set in. Luke suggested we move in with Diane temporarily to save money. I was really hesitant given our history, but Luke insisted it would only be for a few months. He promised we'd move out before the baby came. Reluctantly, I agreed. Living with Diane has been a nightmare from day one. She treats me like an incompetent child, constantly criticizing everything I do. She has all these strict rules: mandatory family dinners, early bedtimes, no snacks in the house. If I object, she guilt trips me about how she's graciously opened her home to us. She's constantly making snide comments about my background and how I was raised. She'll say things like, "Oh, I guess you didn't learn proper table manners in your family," or, "It's so nice that Luke is giving you a chance at a better life." One day, she found an old photo album I had brought with me. She flipped through it, making disparaging comments about our small house and secondhand clothes. When she saw a picture of Mom in her waitress uniform, she said, "Well, I suppose someone has to do those jobs." I was furious, but Luke told me I was overreacting. Luke never stands up for me. He always takes his mom's side or says I'm being too sensitive. They gang up on me constantly. I feel so isolated and alone. As my pregnancy progressed, things got even worse. Diane started monitoring everything I ate, insisting certain foods were bad for the baby. She threw out my prenatal vitamins and replaced them with some herbal concoction she swears by. When I told her my doctor hadn't approved it, she scoffed and said, "Doctors don't know everything." Luke sided with his mom, saying I should trust her experience as a mother. It didn't matter that all her information was outdated or that every pregnancy is different. The breaking point came last week. I had to go on early maternity leave due to some pregnancy complications. My doctor ordered bed rest, but Diane insisted I was just being lazy. She started complaining that I wasn't contributing enough to the household. She said if I couldn't do chores or pay rent, I needed to leave. I was shocked that she'd kick out her pregnant daughter-in-law. Even worse, Luke agreed with her. He said I was taking advantage of their generosity and needed to step up. When I reminded him of my doctor's orders, he accused me of exaggerating my condition. I'd had enough. I packed a bag and left that night to stay with my mom. Luke has been blowing up my phone, alternating between angry messages and pleas to come back. But I don't think I can do this anymore. I love Luke, but I'm starting to realize he'll always put his mom first, and I refuse to raise my child in such a toxic environment. But I also feel guilty about potentially separating my baby from their father. My mom says I'm welcome to stay with her as long as I need. Jake and his wife have also offered support. It feels strange to be back in my childhood home, but also comforting. So Reddit, AATA for leaving my husband while heavily pregnant? Should I try to work things out, or am I right to walk away? I could really use some outside perspectives as I figure out my next steps. Update 1. Thank you all for the supportive comments on my original post. I really appreciate the advice and kind words. I wanted to give an update on what's happened in the last couple weeks. After taking some time to clear my head at my mom's place, I decided to meet up with Luke to talk things through. We agreed to meet at a small cafe in town, neutral ground that felt safer than being alone together or at Diane's house. The cafe held a lot of memories for us. It's where we had our first date in Millbrook, where Luke told me he loved me for the first time, and where we often met for lunch when things were good. Sitting there now, it felt like a lifetime ago. The conversation didn't go well. Luke started off apologetic, saying he realized he'd messed up and wanted to make things right. He even offered to move out of his mom's and get our own place again. For a moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. But as we kept talking, it became clear nothing had really changed. He still defended his mom's behavior, saying she was just trying to help in her own way. He accused me of being ungrateful and said I needed to apologize to Diane if I wanted to come back. I told Luke that I deserved to be treated with respect, especially while pregnant with his child. I reminded him of specific incidents, like when Diane threw out my vitamins or when she made disparaging comments about my family. I asked him why he never stood up for me. His response floored me. He said that since he was the one working on his business while I was on leave, I should just suck it up and do what his mom wants. He even suggested that my pregnancy hormones were making me overreact. When I pointed out that his business wasn't making any money yet, he got defensive and said I never supported his dreams. That's when I realized the situation was beyond saving. Luke will always put his mom first, and I refuse to be second place in my own marriage. With a heavy heart, I told him I wanted a divorce. Luke did not take it well. He yelled and caused a scene in the coffee shop, accusing me of trying to keep his child from him and threatening to fight for full custody. The other patrons were staring, and the barista looked ready to call the police. I stayed calm and left, but I was shaken. I've spent the last week meeting with a divorce lawyer and making plans. My lawyer advised me to document everything. All the mistreatment from Diane, Luke's failure to stand up for me, the scene at the coffee shop. We're pushing for primary custody given Luke's unstable work situation and living arrangements. It's been really hard emotionally. I still love Luke in many ways, and more in the future I thought we'd have. I keep thinking about the good times. Our first dance at our wedding, the night we found out I was pregnant, all the plans we made for our future. But I know this is the right choice for me and my baby. I deserve a partner who puts our family first, not his mother. My own family has been incredibly supportive. My mom is helping me set up the nursery in her spare room. It's small but cozy. We've been painting the walls a soft yellow and setting up the crib that Jake and I used as babies. Mom's been accompanying me to all my doctor's appointments and making sure I'm taking care of myself. Jake and his wife Sarah have been amazing too. They live about an hour away but have been visiting every weekend. Sarah is pregnant too, about 3 months behind me. We've been bonding over pregnancy symptoms and baby prep. It's bittersweet. This isn't how I imagined sharing my first pregnancy with family, but I'm grateful for their support. I'm scared about being a single mom, but I know it's better than staying in a toxic marriage. I'm focusing on my health and the baby now. I have an appointment next week to check on the baby and make sure the stress hasn't affected anything. Financially, things are tight but manageable for now. I'm using my maternity leave from work, and my mom is helping out. Jake and Sarah have also offered to chip in if needed. I'm looking into programs for single mothers to help with childcare once I go back to work. Luke has been alternating between angry messages and tearful pleas to reconcile. One minute he's threatening legal action, the next he's begging me to come home. Diane has been spreading rumors among our friends, painting me as unstable and selfish. She's telling everyone I'm trying to keep Luke from his child, and that I'm ungrateful for everything they've done for me. It hurts, but I'm trying not to engage. My lawyer advised keeping all communication in writing. I've started reconnecting with old friends who I'd lost touch with during my marriage. My best friend from high school, Megan, reached out after hearing about the divorce. We hadn't spoken in years. Luke always said he didn't like her influence on me, but it was like no time had passed. She's been a great source of support and distraction. Looking back, I realize how isolated I'd become during my marriage. Luke always had a reason why we couldn't visit my family or why I shouldn't meet up with old friends. It feels good to have my own support system again. I'll post another update after the divorce proceedings get further along. Thank you again for all the support. It really helped give me the strength to stand up for myself and my child. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. The divorce is moving forward, but it hasn't been easy. Luke initially tried to contest the divorce, claiming I was abandoning our marriage without giving him a real chance to fix things. But my lawyer pointed out that I had tried for months to make it work, and Luke had consistently chosen his mother over me. We had records of text messages and emails showing Luke's dismissal of my concerns and Diane's mistreatment. We're now in the process of dividing assets. Since we were only married for 3 years and Luke's business isn't profitable yet, there isn't too much to split. We're selling our car and dividing the proceeds. I'm keeping my personal savings, which I had maintained separately throughout our marriage. Thank goodness for that decision. Luke is keeping most of the furniture since I'm living with my mom. The main point of contention is the custody arrangement. Luke is pushing for 50-50 custody, but I don't feel comfortable with that given his living situation with Diane. My lawyer and I are advocating for me to have primary custody, with Luke getting supervised visitation until he can demonstrate he has stable, independent living arrangements. Luke's lawyer argued that living with his mother shouldn't disqualify him from equal custody, but we presented evidence of Diane's controlling behavior and outdated ideas about childcare. We also pointed out Luke's unstable financial situation and the fact that he had agreed with kicking out his heavily pregnant wife. Diane has been making things difficult. She's been spreading rumors among our friends and Luke's family, painting me as an unstable, gold-digging woman who trapped Luke with a baby. She's telling everyone that I'm mentally unstable and unfit to be a mother. It's hurtful, but I'm trying not to engage. My lawyer advised me to keep all communication with Luke and Diane in writing and avoid responding to provocations. On a more positive note, my pregnancy is progressing well despite the stress. I'm due in about 6 weeks, and everything looks healthy with the baby. My last ultrasound showed a strong heartbeat and good growth. The doctor says the baby is in the right position for delivery, which is a relief. My mom has been amazing. She's coming with me to all my appointments and helping me prepare for the birth. We've been attending birthing classes together, which feels a bit awkward, but I'm glad for her support. She's been sharing stories about her pregnancies with me and Jake, which has helped me feel more connected to my family history. Jake and Sarah have been incredibly supportive too. They've been driving down every weekend to help set up the nursery and keep me company. We've painted the walls, assembled furniture, and sorted through all the baby clothes and supplies. Sarah and I have been sharing pregnancy experiences and planning playdates for our babies. It's not how I imagined my first pregnancy would go, but I'm grateful for their support. I've also started reconnecting with old friends who I'd lost touch with during my marriage. My best friend from high school, Megan, has been a rock. She's been coming over regularly, bringing comfort food, and providing much-needed distraction. We've been binge-watching our favorite shows from high school and catching up on years of missed gossip. Last weekend, Megan organized a small baby shower for me. It was just a few close friends and family, but it meant the world to me. Everyone brought a book instead of a card, so the baby will have a nice library to start with. It was emotional. I cried several times, but it felt good to be surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. Financially, things are tight but manageable. I'm using my maternity leave from work, and my mom is helping out. I'm also looking into programs for single mothers to help with childcare once I go back to work. Jake and Sarah have offered to help financially if needed, but I'm trying to avoid that if possible. I've also started looking into freelance writing opportunities I can do from home to supplement my income once the baby arrives. The hardest part has been dealing with the emotional fallout. Some days I still question if I made the right choice. But then I remember how miserable and disrespected I felt living with Luke and Diane, and I know I couldn't have stayed. It's been a roller coaster of emotions. One minute I'm excited about the baby. The next I'm mourning the loss of my marriage and the future I thought I'd have. I've started seeing a therapist to help process everything. It's been helpful to have an objective person to talk to about my fears and doubts. She's been working with me on setting boundaries and building my self-esteem. We're also discussing strategies for co-parenting with Luke and dealing with Diane's interference. I'm nervous about the birth and raising a child on my own, but I'm also excited to meet my baby and start our new life together. Whatever happens with Luke and the custody arrangement, I know I'll do everything I can to give my child a loving, stable home. Last week, I ran into Luke's cousin Amy at the grocery store. She's always been kind to me, and to my surprise, she gave me a hug and said she was proud of me for standing up for myself. It meant a lot to know that not everyone in Luke's family believes Diane's lies. Amy even offered to be a character witness if needed in the custody hearing. As my due date approaches, I'm trying to focus on the positives. I have a strong support system, a safe place to live, and a healthy baby on the way. It's not the life I imagined, but I'm determined to make the best of it. I've been working on a birth plan with my doctor and my mom. We've decided that mom will be my primary support person in the delivery room. Part of me is sad that Luke won't be there, but I know having my mom there will be more comforting. Luke has been pushing to be present for the birth, but I'm not comfortable with that given our current situation. My lawyer advised that I'm within my rights to limit his access until the custody arrangement is formalized. It's a tough decision, but I need to prioritize my health and the baby's well-being right now. I've also been thinking a lot about names for the baby. Before all this happened, Luke and I had talked about family names. Now I'm leaning towards naming the baby after my grandfather if it's a boy, or my grandmother if it's a girl. It feels right to honor the family that's supporting me through this difficult time. Yesterday, I felt the baby kick while I was reading a story aloud. It was a moment of pure joy in the midst of all this stress. It reminded me that no matter what happens with Luke and the divorce, I have this amazing little person to look forward to meeting. I'll update again after the baby is born and the custody arrangement is finalized. Thank you all again for the support and advice. It's been a difficult journey, but I feel stronger and more confident in my decisions. I'm scared about the future, but I'm also hopeful. One day at a time, right?